Ladies and gentlemen, friends and neighbors, and people all across America, it's the 100% Humboldt podcast with my newest, best, not that new friend, John Ash. Hey, John.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's a good day in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
What's new with you?
Well, I won't be going to Friday night at the club. So
Yeah.
if you're there, I won't see you. But
Yeah, that's true. Tomorrow's 4th of July, and
yeah.
there's a big celebration down in Old Town.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing about Old Town, which is right over here on the map in Eureka, California, is they do fireworks at 10 o'clock with a 100-foot fog ceiling. It's the best, worst thing you've ever seen.
Yeah, I call it poof and glow.
Foof and glow.
Yeah.
You've seen enough. You've lived here a number of years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many times it's been an open sky. Not that many.
Yeah. Well, there was when I first arrived in Eureka and I got heavily into kayaking.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple 4th of Julys where paddled my kayak out with these other kayakers, and we just laid back and watched the fireworks go off right above us. It was really, really
That's cool.
Yeah.
We went up the Sears Tower in Chicago, and it's so high up you could look down on the fireworks.
Wow.
From Soldier Field over at the Navy Pier, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I've never seen fireworks from on top.
Wow.
The other cool show, and I'm going to talk about you in a minute, is Seattle Sound has Ivar's Sea of Clams sponsors a fireworks show that it would blow your mind. I had never before or since seen fireworks. But anyway, tell us the John Ash story.
Where do you want me to start? Why don't you just ask me a question?
Okay.
I was born in Vallejo,
Okay.
California.
Start at the beginning.
Yeah, right there. And it was during the Second World War. And my father was overseas at the time. And my mom was with my grandmother. She was taking care of my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And delivered me at Vallejo General Hospital on May 9th, 1944. We didn't stay there long. When my dad came back from overseas, he moved us back to Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
where he's from, and that's where he met my mother. So I was raised in Detroit.
How about that?
Yeah, and what an interest. And that's before all the negative things happened there.
Sure.
And I really loved it. I loved being part of an urban environment like that. That's when there was over 2 million people in Detroit.
It was vibrant, right? Motown, and it was a rock and roll city, too.
Yeah, Motown was going at the Rooster Tail nightclub on the Detroit River.
Mm-hmm.
And things were really good. And it was a good place to learn. It got me a job working at General Motors. My uncle did. He was a VP there. And I remember first day, and this is when I'm like 17, right? It's like a summer job
Right.
From high school. And they got me a job at the Fisher Body plant. And that's where they make all the seat covers and convertible tops. And they roll out cloth 200 layers, and then they cut it with this knife that every cycle of the blade sharpens that blade.
Is that right?
And so this guy is showing me, an older guy, I'm 17, and he's cutting and he's talking to me, and he cuts the tip of his thumb off right in front of me, and spurting blood all over the cloths, stuff. And I said, wow, that's really a hard way to teach a safety lesson. But anyway, so when I was in Detroit, I finished high school and really didn't know what I wanted to do and really needed some direction.
Yeah.
So I had been doing a lot of photography while I was in high school. My uncle, when I was 12, showed me how to build an enlarger out of old oil cans. And so I did, and I got into photography and started making my own pictures, got a movie camera, started shooting that, and was doing all the photography for the high school football games and for the high school newspaper and the yearbook. So when I joined the Navy, they said, well, what kind of skills do you have? I tested well.
Uh-huh.
And they sent me to the Naval Photographic School.
Where's that?
Pensacola, Florida.
Huh.
Never been down there.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I'm, close to the bayou and all the alligators and mosquitoes and everything, but I'm learning how to become a professional combat photographer.
Huh.
And I spent 4 years in the Navy and during the Vietnam War.
Sure.
Served on the Ticonderoga and the Constellation aircraft carriers
Mhm.
and flew off the flight deck. I was with a aerial photographic squadron called VAP 61. And we did mainly mapping, some reconnaissance.
Wow.
But I did general photography, just portrait photography for the Navy, public information photography, hanging out of a helicopter on a harness with a 16 millimeter movie camera, flying over ships, just to get public information photography. Sure. And also flew in an F-9 fighter jet shooting other jets.
Really?
So I had an exciting career doing photography. Yeah. Thought I wanted to be a photographer. So when I got out of the Navy, I went to college back in Michigan at the community college and decided I wanted to go back to San Diego where I was stationed in Miramar. I says, this weather is
Miramar,
like night and day.
Yeah. My hometown.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Miramar has the big air show, America's greatest air show, every year.
I believe it.
Oh, my gosh. 3 days of Woodstock.
When I was there was no houses around the base. You could crash an aircraft and not hurt anybody. Yeah, in fact, that happened. I would have to go out and shoot pictures of these crashed aircrafts that couldn't make it, but there was no homes out there.
Yeah, Mira Mesa was all just a big nothing, right? Just scrub.
Big scrub, yeah.
Oh, huh.
So that was a really interesting experience, but I fell in love with San Diego.
What a great town.
Yeah.
America's greatest town.
Is that right?
Greatest city. That's what they call themselves.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue another city. I guess you could.
Back in the 60s, there wasn't the traffic there is now. And,
oh, boy.
And so I transferred out to San Diego State.
Good school.
And that's where I, got involved in student politics. And
oh, really?
I was the managing editor of Daily Aztec. And
go Aztecs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, great school. Yeah. We used to go out in high school and drink beer with those guys.
Is that right?
All y'all, yeah. Though you guys like pretty decent fun when you're 17 or younger. No, San Diego State's a great school, and San Diego as a city is unmatched. So I moved from Sioux City, Iowa, to National City, California, home of 32nd Street Navy base.
Yeah,
and back in the day, it was open base. The bus line would go right by the ships and dump everybody out. We'd go downtown and, just a bunch of feral hippie children goofing around. But good days. And you're right. Not crowded, not smoggy, not LA.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I had a girlfriend when I was at San Diego State that was up in LA, and it's like, you'd leave San Diego and you start driving up and the smog would start coming in.
Oh my gosh.
And you just realize, wow, LA was so bad then.
Oh.
But that's all changed.
It's changed. You could see the mountains and stuff.
Yeah. Now we did, I lived, when I was at San Diego State, I got involved in student politics and a bunch of the people that were like the president of the student body, Ron Breen, and we started a commune. We rented a house in La Mesa.
Oh, cool.
And 6 of us lived in this commune. And we were all student leaders. We were running everything. We were running all the shows and things like we had control of the student budget. And
wow.
Yeah, it was really something. We all got work study money. And we started doing concerts. So our first concert was with Quicksilver.
Sweet.
Leon Russell, Hot Tuna, Pink Floyd.
This is going back a ways.
Yeah. They were young. They were new.
These guys were all new. Where was the venue? Was it at San Diego?
We did it at the sports arena.
Yeah.
We were supposed to do it at Aztec Stadium, but because we broke a few rules in terms of how we handled the publicity, and one of the higher-ups said, That's the reason to kill these guys. So they did. They kicked us out. We couldn't do the concert. So we had 2 weeks to find a new venue,
Huh.
and we finally made a deal with the sports arena
Sure.
to move it there. So we went from an outdoor concert to an indoor concert,
Huh.
and we had so we rented airplanes that were pulling these big banners to
Sure.
announce the change in the venue, and we filled up the stadium. The second one we did was at UCSD, and it was an outdoor concert.
Huh.
So
Who was in that one?
we had Hot Tuna again. We had almost the same lineup.
Wow.
I forget. We had another couple other acts, but that was essentially
I
it.
say Pink Floyd. Quicksilver I'm impressed with, but Pink Floyd, it's like that. They weren't next level then. They were just,
They weren't then.
nobody knew them.
Nobody knew them. Nobody knew Hot Tuna either.
Right.
And even Leon Russell,
Mhm.
he wasn't really out on his own that much
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
He's
He's part of the Wrecking Crew in L.A. They were studio musicians that did music for the Beach Boys and the Association. They wrote a lot of those tunes
Yeah.
and played them. They were the studio killer all-stars that would shift around. He came out of that, so did Glenn Campbell. Speaking of San Diego State, have I got a story? You've heard of the Ramones from New York City, the punk rock band? So in 75 or 6, they played at San Diego State.
Yeah.
And that first time I ever drank 151 rum and got slammed around in what they call a mosh pit. Now it was called slam dancing. And it was one of those experiences you have to be there. I wouldn't do that today. Not my time. My idea of a great time.
Yeah. Because you already know what the consequences would be. So,
Oh man.
yeah, you avoid, at our age, we really go into avoid consequences.
Absolutely. I'm not going to do any hang gliding anytime soon.
Yeah.
Forget it, man.
Yeah, I look at things and say, well, what are the consequences of that now?
Yeah, you had to weigh it, man. So Vallejo to Detroit to in the Navy overseas. How many years in Vietnam?
4.
How about that?
Yeah.
I bet that was an experience.
It was. I mean, I didn't ever go over on the land. We were there on a Yankee called Yankee Station during the Gulf of Tonkin.
Mm-hmm.
Right in the in fact, I've got a patch that says the Gulf of Tonkin Yacht Club, and because we had the whole 7th Fleet there, and it was quite a time. Probably the most exciting was being on a flight deck during night ops, watching these planes screech in, just screech, and then they drop their hooks and drag that steel across and hit those cables, and all these red lights would go on, and
it's a whole show.
Oh, it was like just mind-boggling.
And you could be right on the deck and watch that stuff.
And you were on the deck because you had planes coming in. You had to get their cassettes, their camera cassettes. These were cameras that with a 36-inch focal length on them, and the negative size was 9 by 18.
Huge.
Yeah, huge. Of course, now it's all digital. All that's gone.
Yeah, they got little cameras there about that.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Miramar Naval Air Show that they do every year, it's in October. It's called America's Greatest Air Show. My dad always would drag me along and want me to go. He lived in Oceanside, and he was a P-51 pilot, World War II. He worked on Pendleton, but I finally went 2 years ago at age whatever I was, 62, and it was the coolest thing ever because you all the hovercraft and the British whatever it is, and they have jet cars. And there's stuff, the motorcycle demo. I mean, the whole thing is really cool, like a lot of really cool aircraft. And it's all day, and it's 3 days.
So that's in October?
Correct.
I have to check that out because I go down there. All these people that were in the commune, they're still in San Diego. They haven't left.
Let's go back to the commune. When you say, I think a commune, and I think Mendocino out in the woods. La Mesa didn't have that many woods.
No, we rented a house. Because we all had money. We were getting student activity fees, and we were getting, work study, and I had the GI Bill, so I was.
You guys are loaded.
Floated in cash, but we rented this house, beautiful house, 6-bedroom. It had a swimming pool. I mean, what kind of commune has a swimming pool?
Just yours.
Ours.
Smart guys.
So we had some parties that really created some records.
Some legend back in
Yeah.
the
Oh
day.
yeah. So and but that went on, for until I left San Diego State. I didn't graduate from there because at that point, in the summer of '71, because I was a student leader, I got invited to a Ford Foundation experiment. Ford Foundation wanted to find out what was motivating student leaders and where they were going to go and how they got along and the whole psychology. They didn't understand it, so they wanted to find out. So they created this project. They had 4 professors from Berkeley and 12 graduate students that had written this fantastic project that Ford Foundation decided to fund. And what they did is they rented a fraternity house up at UC Davis.
Great.
And they got 30 male and 30 female students, some from small colleges, some public colleges, big universities, real mix, and brought us all together in June of '71.
These are all student leaders.
Yeah, well, and from little colleges of 3,000 to colleges as big as San Diego State and bigger.
Sure. What happened?
Well, we all got together, and there was probably some smoking of weed and taking of hallucinogenics.
Sure.
So we spent the first 3 weeks. You have to remember that was the beginning of the Women's Studies program, the Women's Empowerment movement. We spent the first 3 weeks arguing about who was going to do the dishes. And
right.
The
important stuff. Yeah.
The important thing for me was one of the professors was Professor Sim Vanderin, who was an architect, taught architecture at Berkeley. And he got us all involved in how to deal with the environment, how to create things, how to interact in terms of space. And through that experience, it was like an epiphany. I left I'm going to be an architect.
Nice.
This is who I am.
Wow.
And so I immediately started searching for architectural schools, and I ended up transferring to Boston Architectural College in Boston.
Wow.
And I spent the next 5 years there.
Lived in Boston.
Yeah, loved it.
What a great town. That's arguably a great town too, right?
It is.
Yeah.
I lived in a loft in Cambridge.
Far out.
It was an old laundry building that had been converted to artist lofts. And it was 6 stories of artists, musicians, and architectural students in Cambridge.
All the creative guys and gals.
Yeah. Yeah. We were all there. We had the best parties that MIT and Harvard had ever seen.
All those guys came to your parties.
Yeah, they came to our parties and I wasn't necessarily the host. I mean, that would mix up, but it became a really great experience for me, and that's what turned me into being an architect.
And the social aspect of that, and that interaction, and all the BU kids and Cambridge, and yeah, wow.
Well, that was one of the great things about Boston is that there's over 240 colleges and universities in that city.
240.
Yeah, it's such a young city of all these people that are going to school. Everybody that worked in a restaurant was going to college there.
Sure.
I mean, that was the standard.
That's what you did, yeah.
That's what you did.
Right.
You lived off of tips.
Yeah.
And you party at night.
Yeah.
But I don't want to make it sound like that's all I did was party.
No, but you're it was a portion.
It was a portion. It was a good time. But I learned a lot. I had some good professors there. My mentor was a woman named Mariota Stevens that was she taught at both MIT and at Boston
Mm.
Architectural College. And I met some really good people, and
Yeah.
that inspired me in my work. And
Got your degree there.
yeah.
Nice.
And then because you had 3 architectural colleges in Boston, they're graduating architects, so there's like no jobs that paid anything.
Not there. Yeah.
Not there. So you had to leave.
Yeah.
You had to get out. So I had a friend that had been at BAC, and he had moved to LA, and he says, "Come out to LA because there's plenty of jobs out here."
Sure.
And that's how I ended up in LA.
And the weather's better.
Weather's a hell of a lot better.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about LA. First, hey, if you're just joining us, Scott Hammond, 100% Humboldt podcast, my amazing producer, Nick, who's waving at you now, and my near and dear new best friend, John Ash, talking about his journey in the 70s. You know, prior to the 70s, that's what happened. There was a social aspect and discovery and women's rights, women's movement, this sexual implications of that time period are there, the drug implications. It was just a kind of a different headspace around all that. I think people, I mean, I was very young, you know, because I'm only like 40 right now. I'm kidding. I'm trying to observe on this and didact something profound. I guess it was a period of discovery, right? People were just getting out of the 50s and 60s and doing new things.
Yeah, and you hear this now, well, you hippies, changed the world, and it's gotten worse since then.
Mm-mm.
And I try to tell people, well, it was a period of change. And they say, oh, no, you just want to tear everything down. You didn't have anything to replace it with. Well, you don't replace principles and ways of doing things overnight.
Yeah.
And I think that's still evolving. Unfortunately, the momentum was lost. And I think a lot of that momentum was lost because of drugs.
Yeah.
I certainly think that was a big factor of it.
Mm-hmm.
The other factor is that people wanted to get a job and, make some money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all these people that were supposedly dropping out all became, venture capitalists.
Right.
And so that's where the movement was.
Right.
That we got to make a living. And so there was all these new ways of making a living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know what show is on CNN. It was called, I think, the 60s. And it kind of chronicled the peak of Woodstock and the peace movement and how there was a new way of thinking, the age of Aquarius, all that happy stuff, and ecology and civil rights and computers were spawned from all of that kind of progressive sort of thinking. Recycling, that's some bad stuff that came from there. And then you got, then they kind of hit Richard Nixon, and then the Hells Angels concert at Altamont, and things really were not hippy dippy anymore. They were pretty violent. You're going to get your ass kicked.
Yeah,
and it spun off of that. And then you got your hippie dirtbags after that. But it's kind of interesting that whatever that movement is, kind of died. But you and I would argue it lives on in a lot of good stuff and a lot of great people.
Yeah, it does, especially like I have friends that are my age that I went, and they're still doing things, and we're like looking at, okay, so we're survivors, and what are we going to do to what kind of world are we going to leave to the next generation? And frankly, it troubles me to see where things are going, that what's going to be left. It's very easy to have a dystopian attitude about where things are going to go. How are people dealing with technology, with all these advances in technology? When I started my architectural practice in my own office in 81.
This is in LA?
Yeah.
What part?
in Westwood.
Oh, wow.
It's our first office, but then we moved quickly downtown to the Bradbury Building on 3rd and Broadway, which is a fantastic building. And what you see is the advancement of technology. I was around when in 82, 83, and I was an early adopter of AutoCAD, computer drafting. Here you were having a room full of drafting tables and draftsmen and draftswomen drawing everything. Everything was lead on paper, right? T-squares, slide rule, all of that. There was no technology. Really, if you looked at the history of architecture and engineering, it had 100 years, and there's been no changes.
Right.
We're still using the same kind of lead pencil.
Lead on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, AutoCAD comes around, or Autodesk.
Changed the game, right?
Changed the game, and all of a sudden, you could plot a drawing. Now, when I first started with AutoCAD, it was with MS-DOS. Remember DOS?
Sure.
Yeah. And it had pen plotters. So when the paper would start rolling through, it was very slow. And these pens would be moving across the paper.
The big old broad printers.
Yeah. Of course, now that's all, done away with.
Yeah.
But that was adapting something that was very new, and people had a rough time. Everybody thought, we're going to be out of work. In fact, the profession itself, we didn't know whether we should charge more for AutoCAD drawings or versus pencil, because we could reproduce that. Clients thought, well, you should charge less because now it's automated. So you got into this whole head thing of what is the technology? How is it going to affect you?
What's it worth?
And now we're, dealing with, we've gone through a lot of different changes in the technology, but the biggest one I think we're faced with is with AI.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that. I have an AI feature, part of the new feature of the show.
Oh, okay.
You want to know what AI says about you? Well, you're going to have to wait for a minute, John. So you're in LA, and so at some point you made the jump and worked there, and then moved to Humboldt. It came up. What brought you to the Humboldt County?
I was on the board of the California Preservation Foundation. A good percentage of my work was historic preservation. I did the LA Coliseum after the Northridge earthquake.
Wow.
Did the LA City Hall, documented that whole building in terms of the kind of changes. So that was a real big part of my practice. And I got involved with the California Preservation Foundation, which is a trade organization of people involved, contractors, engineers, architects, historians, involved in rehabilitating historic buildings. I got on the board of that group, and we had, in 1992, we had our annual conference here in May. And while we were here...
Here, Eureka.
Yeah.
Oh.
And while we were here, we had those earthquakes. There was a 6.2 earthquake. And so all of the architects and engineers that were at the conference were enlisted by the county and the city to go around red-taking buildings. So it was through that experience that I met various people in the city and building owners, and got some work.
How about that?
And got asked to come up and, do some work on some buildings.
Who'd you connect with early back in the day? Like city planners or? Yeah,
primarily city planners and a few private building owners. And, I almost did the Vance Hotel, but I didn't get that job. And I was dealing with an Indian tribe. So it was, it was a comment, but I always kept... I didn't open up an office here right away. I came up and would just stay here for 3-4 days and do my work and go back down to LA. But eventually I met my wife, and all of a sudden, now I have 2 homes, one in LA and one in Eureka. And I'm commuting back and forth. 2 weeks here, 2 weeks in LA.
How'd that go?
Well, that was a very interesting time. In fact, it started back in really in 1997. That's when I first opened up an office. No, 98. First opened an office here, and that's when I really started commuting back and forth.
Yeah.
Bought an airplane, learned how to fly.
Cool.
Flew back and forth between my own plane. Drove 11 and a half hours.
Such a grind.
On the 5.
Yeah.
That was what I did.
So what pulled the trigger for you to move up here and move out of LA?
Oh, COVID. That's when I closed my LA office.
Okay.
I was still doing this up until
So you've been doing
2020.
So I figured because you had the office down in Old Town, right, for many years.
Yeah.
I just rode my bike by there 2 hours ago. Are you still there? I didn't see.
No, I retired.
You must have moved, yeah.
I retired in 2021.
I knew that.
That's when I turned my license in and got my insurance set. Because when you have a professional license, it's like a doctor.
Yeah.
If you want to stop, you have to get you understand trailer insurance.
Sure.
You want to cover yourself so nobody sues you.
Sure.
But you have, to do that, you have to promise not to do any more work.
You got to.
You have to turn your license.
Turn it over. Yeah. Oh yeah. Wow. Hey, quite a journey. And then your lovely wife, she's amazing. She's part of an amazing family, right?
Yes, she is.
You married up like I did. Good job, John. Way to go. So,
I did. Yeah.
So Vietnam service, I know you were one of our Humboldt heroes where we recognize a hero once a month at our
I was
agency.
honored. I think that's a great thing you're doing.
Thanks, man. Yeah, you were gracious and it's lovely. And every one of these is different. Somebody said, hey, why don't you take that and do something bigger, national? I said, why would you wreck it?
Yeah.
Well, it's nice and modest, and at 9 years old, it's doing great.
Yeah. Well, things are sized like what you're doing are sized for our community.
Mm-hmm.
And so they become important to our community. And if you tried to, make a bigger show of it and go, it becomes something different.
Right. You and I are no longer spring chickens, but at one time, you were a pretty athletic dude, right? You're Adonis of some sort. A man of athletic note.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how things evolve from doing a health thing. Like I smoked cigarettes up until I was 38.
How about that?
And, 2 packs a day, Marlboros.
Sure.
When I went to college, you could smoke in a classroom.
During class?
Yeah. At our Boston Architecture College.
Or on a plane.
Yeah. Or on a plane. Right. Exactly.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. So anyway, I was a smoker and I decided that I needed to quit. That was something I really wanted to do.
Sure.
So I signed up for American Heart Association program, Quit Smoking in 20 Days.
Mm-hmm.
And what they recommended is start running, start bicycling.
Do something.
Do something that gets you outside, exercise. So I said, well, running's, I'll just buy a pair of running shoes.
Sure.
Some shorts.
It's cheap.
And at first, when I first started, I could run maybe a mile and that was it.
Right.
But I kept going and, one thing leads to another. You say, well, you have your friend says, hey, there's a 5K. Why don't you? I don't know, man.
I don't know.
And so you do it.
Right.
And when you come back to your car, there's all these flyers on the windshield of the next event.
Right.
So then, okay.
Got to go to that one.
Yeah, got to do that. So you do a couple more 5s, and then somebody says, hey, let's do a 10.
Right.
And so you start working your way up, and you start thinking, hey, I could do that.
LA Marathon.
Yeah.
Why not?
And so when I finally did my first marathon, which was the Long Beach Marathon, I decided, if I could do a marathon after smoking all this time, I could. The one thing I've wanted to do athletic was learn how to swim. I didn't know how to swim. I almost drowned when I was 16 in Detroit. And so I decided I want to learn to swim.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to this swim school in Beverly Hills called the Beverlywood Swim School. It's mostly all 1-year-olds, with their moms sitting on the side
And there's
learning
John.
how to swim. Yeah. And
Mommy, who's the man?
it's one-on-one. So the teachers said, don't worry, I want to teach you how to swim. I can teach
Super.
you.
Yeah.
I said, okay. And she says, you're probably the only one that's not peeing in the pool. So I went for it, and I did. I learned how to swim.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept swimming. And then I said, well, maybe triathlons had just started at that point.
That's right. I think you mentioned you'd done some triathlon.
And so I said, well, I want to try that. And so I got another swim coach,
Uh-huh.
and I put a lap pool in my backyard in L.A.
Yeah, no, I get that. Hey,
Wait a minute.
it's coming in. It's coming in hot. No, triathletes are great. My father-in-law's from Torrance. He was a marathon runner.
Yeah.
He probably ran at Long Beach a number of times.
Yeah.
He's quite a guy. He was a pharmacist who still drank and used a little bit. Well, but he loved running. He'd run 20 miles on New Year's Day as a rule. But quite a guy. Always athletic and just getting that whole endorphin hit.
And I got hooked on that, and I loved it. And I started doing triathlons, short ones, where you do a 10K run and, half-mile swim and, 25-mile bike.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just kept going. I really got hooked and started building up. And then came to my head that I want to do the Ironman.
No way.
Ironman.
In Hawaii? In Hawaii at Kona?
Well, at that time, you had to qualify by doing one somewhere else.
Oh.
So, and that was 2.5-mile swim, 120-mile bike ride, and 26-mile run.
0.2.
26.
26 even?
Yeah.
Okay. Not
you're right.
Full
26.2.
Full marathon.
Right. You're right.
Yeah.
And so I said, I want to do that. And the one that was the easiest to get into was in Canada, in Penticton. So it was the Canadian Ironman.
Penticton. Where's that? What province?
It's by Calgary. It's between Calgary and Vancouver, in the Canadian Rockies.
But not in the winter.
No. It was like in August.
Perfect.
And so then I started training. And I would train, and you got to remember, I'm running an architectural firm at this time, and got jobs and clients to meet, and got to make the rain. So I would get up in the morning, and I'd run for 12 miles through Beverly Hills and back. I'd run all the way down to Santa Monica and come back. I was living in the Mid-Wilshire area at the time. And then at lunch, I'd go home because I had the lap pool. And I meet my coach, and we'd swim laps. I'd swim laps. And then at night, I get on a stationary bike, and I had videos of the Tour de France. And I'd watch these videos of Tour de France on my stationary bike and ride.
Wow.
And then on weekends, I would do a long bike ride. I'd do 100 miles.
Sure.
And also started doing century bike races.
Sure.
And that was fun.
Yeah.
But you had all these cyclists, and you get these long pelotons. And so for that period of time from like 1983, 84 till I did the Ironman in 1990.
How about that?
Yeah.
Oh. How'd you do? Did you finish?
Yeah, I finished.
Nice.
And 14 hours and 5 minutes.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, it wasn't any world-breaking time.
That's pretty darn good.
You, in fact, what you don't want to do, you want to finish within the cutoff at 17, but it's fun to drag it out, especially the run, because you're talking with other people and other runners, And
that's on Kona, the island of Kona, right?
No, it's in Penticton.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're in Canada still.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Now, in order to qualify to do Kona,
Mhm.
you have to be in the top 5 of your age group, which I wasn't.
Okay.
But I did go to watch the Ironman there.
Oh, I bet that'd be fun.
I would, and I would have loved to have done it, but
It's so hardcore.
by the time I finished the one in Penticton,
Mhm.
my firm was, staff was saying, you're way
You
along.
you gotta come back.
Come back. So
It's a little selfish to train all that time,
yeah,
Yeah, no, I get it. My brother-in-law did the Western 100. It's
yeah,
a 24-hour run.
yeah,
He made it. You get the belt buckle if you make it in 24 hours. He was shout out to Scott Hansen. 23:56 and change. He just kind of squeaked in there, but he got the belt buckle,
yeah.
which is a big deal. Yeah, so I love that. So you had this athletic. Did you ever know Mike Pigg, the local triathlete? You ever
Yes,
talk to
I
Pigg?
do. In fact, I went to a triathlon training school in San Diego that he was one of the instructors.
Is that right?
Yeah, at UC San Diego.
That would have been at the top of his game because he was on tour.
Yeah,
He was the stud.
yeah. Now, he never did the Ironman.
No, he did all the
Yeah,
it was like a league or it was a tour. It was an
Yeah.
official tour.
yeah,
But he was always the point leader for a long time. Right?
yeah. But got a little story. So when I went down to UC San Diego and checking in, they said, well, go over to the cafeteria and so you'll see a bunch of guys there. And so I knew who Mike Pigg was. I mean, he didn't know me, but I knew from the triathlon magazines and stuff,
Sure.
I knew what he looked
He
like.
was everywhere.
So I go there, and here he's sitting there, and he's got 2 big cheeseburgers and a plate of fries.
He's training, man. He got to get
Yeah.
his calories in.
And I said, wow, that's
That's how you eat.
my leader, man.
That's if he could do it, I could do it.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I really appreciate it. So, yeah, architecture is a whole different game. I was thinking while you were talking that saying that many things look so good on paper, but when you execute, whether it's a building or an idea, it doesn't always work. It doesn't always translate. And I was thinking there's a principle in life where Joni and I have had these great revelation ideas, and when you executed, they were crap for
Yeah.
whatever reasons. And I know there's always that disconnect, and that just occurred to me, and I thought you should know about that. So,
Well, I think what one of the things that drew me to architecture was I've always had a very vivid imagination.
mm,
And sometimes that's good, and many times it's not so good because you get wild ideas in your mind.
mm,
And so architecture gave me the opportunity to sit across from a client,
Hmm.
and they would give me words of what they wanted, and that would generate images in my head.
Hmm.
And I'd learned to sketch upside down
oh,
so that you could talk to me and I could run that through my
I
imagination.
love that.
And sketch that out.
Mhm.
So, that was, in fact, one of the things that made me confident that I could be when I decided I want to write 12 years ago, that led me to believe I could do that because it was a matter of taking what was going on in my head
Mm,
and turning it into words.
mhm.
And that was fun. That was fun
Cool.
to take these wild ideas and say
Mm,
that's just fiction.
yeah,
That and you could put that down and make good stories, and
sure.
you can create characters and let them live in your mind.
And create poetry.
You could create
You
poetry,
could songwrite.
and I've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I love it. I love the creative outlet. Yeah. So I do the quiz show, so you get your chance to earn something from the prize bag here. So we're gonna break for that. Ready?
Okay.
Just joining me. This is John Ash, Scott Hammond, 100% Humboldt podcast. So you get to eat. Question number 1 for all the money. You get to eat anywhere you want in the county. Where do you take your sweetheart? Where do you guys go? I'm buying. Where are you going?
well, typically we just go to the Ingomar.
Okay.
that's our destination.
That's your go-to. Let's say they're closed that night. Where would you
Yeah.
take?
Well, Brick and Fire.
Brick and Fire, good, delicious.
Let's see. Well, that's really a hard question. Brick and Fire.
Yeah.
Brick and Fire.
And then my friend Peter, after he goes to the club, they'll often go to McDonald's to get a burger. He gets a quarter pounder. Anyway, question 2. You get your whole day off. You get to do whatever you want to do. 9 a.m., 9 p.m. John, what are you up to? What are you going to do with that day off? Anything you want to do, no holds barred. You have to stay in the county, though.
Well, go for a bike ride, go for a walk in the Sequoia Park.
Oh,
I love walking with my dog in Sequoia Park. I do that, maybe 5 times a week.
you live over by the park?
No, I live on the corner of Booner and Jay.
Got it. Trying to think where that is. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you think what kind of image did you get when you...
There's a crosswalk there.
There is 4 of them.
Yeah. Is that the bike lane too on Jay? Is there a bike?
Yeah, there's a bike lane on Jay.
Yeah. And I'm glad for it because I just rode my bike down the bike lane on Jay all the way to the bay today.
Yeah, and so you don't ride on the brand new bike lanes
Mm-hmm.
on H and I
Mm-hmm.
that city spent several thousands of dollars on.
Yeah.
And you would like most bike riders that ride a lot.
Come over on Jay.
They ride on Jay.
There's no traffic.
No traffic.
Better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny thing, you'd mentioned 2 things. So for those of you that are new to Humboldt County, Arcata's in the North Bay and Eureka is in the south. They just did this famous Humboldt Bay Trail they opened up 5 days ago, and it's magical. And we took the ride down, and so you can go all the way from North Clam Beach to the north. See where that is? All the way down to the power plant. You don't know where that is, but it's south of Eureka. I think it's 15, 20 miles, and it's cool. So you can bike this thing now, and they celebrated that.
Yeah.
And we rode that, and it was full of people on the way down and the way back. It was magical on the bay as the sun set over Humboldt Bay, and it was warm.
Wow.
And it's just a cool thing. And you did mention Sequoia Park. So our last guest, Jim, he's the zoo director. You might know Jim.
Oh yeah, I know Jim.
He was telling us about the Skywalk, which is also cool.
I was involved in the design of that.
Is that right? Okay. Makes sense.
Because that's been hanging around for about the last 10 years.
Excuse the pun.
Yeah.
Yeah, good one.
When Gretchen Ziegler was the zoo director.
Okay.
She was the one that initiated that originally, along with, some of the other board members. Jeff Lamry was part of that. And so when I joined the zoo board, because I was an architect, I got involved I became chairman of the project committee and worked on that design because it went back and forth in terms of how to do it, where it was going to go, what was the mission of it, how much it was going to cost. And it wasn't until Julie Bimbo, who never gets credit for much, got involved with some of the sponsors, like the I forget their names, the hotel hospitality,
the association,
yeah, and talked them into funding it.
Smart,
and she really got that going and made that happen.
He said they took attendance from 40,000 to 180,000.
Is that
last
right?
year. Oh, phenomenal! He said it's not regional now, or it's international.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
So that once we got the funding for it, then it really started going forward, and I think they did a great job of it. Gretchen, and then she retired, and Jim took over, and also Jim's a real avid drone flyer.
Oh yeah, he's hardcore.
Yeah.
Nice guy. You guys did a great job on that. It's a cool thing.
Yeah, I
love that. Yeah. So let's do the AI portion of the show.
Okay.
So AI claims that you're humble and approachable, and I don't know if you want to comment on that. I think that's true. Known for his approachable demeanor and willingness to lend a hand, Ash is a fixture at community gatherings and events. I don't know if that's 100%, but that's a nice compliment.
Used to be.
Used to be, yeah, that's fair. Both as a war veteran and a local leader, Ash exemplifies resilience, service, and hope. And here's what I kind of like this one. I hope this is me a little bit. So I'm hoping to aspire to this. His life work stands as a testament to the power of giving back and the enduring impact that one individual can have on a community.
Wow.
Thank you, AI. That's pretty high praise.
That is.
I don't want to muddy it up at all.
Yeah,
Really.
no.
Sometimes AI gets it right, and other times it's like, story of courage, compassion, commitment, a reminder that true heroes are often not found in distant battlefields, but right here at home, building a better future for us all. Excuse the pun. Maybe designing would be more of a pun.
Yeah. So what I'm disappointed in, frankly,
Please.
is that it didn't mention that's in my heart, deep within my soul, is what I think of as my greatest achievement.
What's that?
Here in Humboldt County.
Please.
And that was founding Explore North Coast Kayak Association.
That's right. You mentioned that before. Tell us about that real quick.
So when I got up here, when I was in L.A., I had a sailboat. I had a 32-foot Erickson and at Marina Del Rey, and I would sail out to Catalina, and that was my thing, my water thing, right? And I loved it. I learned how to sail when I was actually in San Diego going to boot camp. The weekend I was able to
Mission Bay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And so when I got up here, sailing didn't fit. And I had sold my sailboat. So I talked to a few people about, what do you do up here in the water? Well, kayaking.
Big.
So I first tried river kayaking, and I said, you could really get hurt doing this.
Oh, boy.
And plus, if you go river kayaking, you got to go with other people because you go down the river and you got to have a way to get back.
That's true.
And so I got into ocean kayaking, and I bought a kayak and bought another one and started kayaking. And I would meet people out in the bay.
Sure.
And I said, how about we connect up next weekend and, leave from Arcata and or Mad River Slough.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Trinidad, yeah.
Big Lagoon.
Oh, big Lagoon. So I started meeting people.
Huh.
And then I said, well, why don't we exchange email addresses and so we can do this and send out a note, and I'll do that. So I started sending out notices, and we're all going to meet. And so it started that way.
Perfect.
And my wife always says, you take a fun activity and you want to make it into a job. and that's exactly what happened. I started, getting serious about it. And then I met two of the people that had just started kayaking, Marcia and Simeon Tauber.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know there?
I know the names.
Yeah, they used to own Simply Macintosh in Arcata.
Sure.
And so they got involved. And Marcia's an attorney, and she says, well, why don't we start an organization, a nonprofit? And that's exactly what we did. And we started to explore North Coast.
It's still going?
Yeah, it's still going, 125 members.
Yeah. I got a client, she comes in all the time. She's got kayaks racked up. Hey, just got off the bay, and she's like into it. She's all wet.
It's it was a great experience. I did a film kayaking around the bay, and this is when I was in Rotary, Rico Rotary, and I brought it in and showed that at one of the meetings.
Oh, that's cool.
And there was people there that lived here all their lives and knew nothing about the bay.
Huh.
And I said, wow, I didn't know that was like that.
Yeah.
You go down in the South Bay, and you see all these birds and
gorgeous.
It's just beautiful. They didn't know that it existed.
I'm inspired to get out there. So when I was a rookie State Farm guy, I went down to, you ever know Don Brown State Farm in Fortuna?
Yeah.
Avid kayaker, built his own.
Yeah.
Cherrywood, beautiful. And he goes, get in the car. We're going to go put some shorts on. We're going to go get in Hookton Slough. We're going kayaking. And I go, heck yeah, we are. And I'm peeling off clothes and throwing off my sport coat. Yeah, let's go. And he goes, Scott, And he'd had brain cancer for many years, and he was, in remission and recovering, and it finally took him. But the story is, he goes, Scott, you live in beautiful Humboldt County. You got to take advantage of this place. And isn't this beautiful? And I go, yes, yes, sir. And 3 or 4 hours of Zen training and insurance in a kayak.
Yeah.
And he was right. I'm looking at Hookton Slough. It's 70 degrees.
Yeah.
And there's everything. And we're the only guys out there in these 18-foot cherry wood, beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was a good experience. And
it's beautiful.
So Joni, when you hear this, yes, I am committed to going kayaking. We'll start at Big Lagoon.
Yeah.
Or maybe, Adorney, the Humboldt State rowing house down there rents them.
Yes, they do.
Maybe we'll start there in the bay.
Yeah. And there's another place over on Woodley Island called Humboldt's.
Yeah.
And they rent them out. You can get them there also.
And Kayak Trinidad up in Trinidad.
Yeah.
And that's a harbor to float in. I want to do that.
It is. You can go in the rock garden out there, and it's just beautiful.
That's cool.
And Explore North Coast has events every week. They meet in a different place, like in Stone Lagoon. They have once every year they have an event where you kayak, and there's a little island out there, and they all camp overnight and cook salmon. And
man, I want to. So, how do we find those guys? Explore.
They have a website.
ExploreHumboldt.com.
No, Explore North Coast.
Northcoast.org. ExploreNorthCoast.org.
So, I don't know if you had it on your list, but I know if I didn't say anything about it, my wife would say, well, why didn't you talk about your book?
Yeah. Oh, your book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, real quick.
Okay. So real quick, I finished a novel, 80,500 words. That's about 225 pages in a paperback. And currently I'm trying to find an agent because I want to go with a major publisher, so I can have distribution.
Of course.
And and
what's it called?
Well, it's called. Glad you asked, Scott.
Funny.
So it's called The Road to Oracle.
Nice.
And it is a lyrical, psychological thriller about twins Kate and Nate Windsor, whose carefully controlled lives unravel under the weight of childhood trauma and dissociative identity disorder.
Sounds like a lot of us.
Yeah.
That sounds great, John.
So this is something I've been working on for the last 3 years. And finally, I've finished it.
So you have a manuscript that you're submitting?
Yeah, I have a manuscript, and I'm querying agents because there's a whole process.
Oh, yeah.
That you have to go through.
This guy wrote a book. How to Become a Better Father, The Everyday Dad.
Oh.
Yeah, a friend of yours, me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
self-published.
Oh.
Yeah, if I'd never took it to the next level, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, how would you like your legacy to be remembered? What's on your tombstone? What are we saying at your celebration of life? Briefly, what would you want us to remember?
That he spent his whole life learning how to love.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, because it goes both ways. It's knowing people to love and being able to have enough self-worth to give love back.
Give and receive. Hey, I'm giving that right now, and you're receiving a Dutch Brothers card because you answered the questions and the quiz.
Oh,
very well.
Goodness.
Thank you, John.
I am looking forward to using this.
Hey, man, they have coffee.
Yeah.
It's drive-through. You know about it. Hey, so I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Hey, we got voted top 3 podcasts by the North Coast Journal and Best of Humboldt. I understand we didn't win, but Miles, congrats. You're amazing. But hey, people are looking our way. Coming for you, Miles, next year, bro.
So what do you got to do to become number 1?
You have to jockey for votes. I should have done that on the podcast for 6 months, but I'm starting now. So we're going to win in 26.
Well, I think you're doing a lot of great things. And I think that Humboldt County is better because you're here.
Thank you.
And I think people should vote for you and recognize that.
Hey, man, next year they're going to have the polls are going to be open. So if you would like to subscribe, like us, love us, make comments, social media, all the podcast platforms, please do. We'll be back next week. Scott Hammond, 100% Humboldt with John Ash. Thanks, John, for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.